All right. Howdy, folks. Hope y'all are having a good day or a good evening, and if not a good month or a good year. Boy, howdy. We are up against some really weird shit going on these days, man. God help us all from these lunatics who govern our country and command our military. God help us all. Not to mention, God help us from the insanity that seems to be manifesting across parts of the Middle East. Not the least of which is seems to be initiated, if not for sure, encouraged and aggravated by the state of Israel. This whole attempt on the part of Israel and the United States to effect some kind of regime change in Iran is patently absurd, insulting to most of the rest of the world, downright stupid, ill-advised, idiotic, and infinitely harmful as far as the world economy and the health and well-being of the rest of the world is concerned. Do these fucking lunatics in charge not realize the scope of what they're doing, the ramifications, and how this is going to affect the entire world? Do they not realize it? Hold on one second, folks. Oh, where is that thing, Emma? I'm gonna deal with it. Oh, there it is over there. Okay. I have another violin, which I shall be grabbing here in a while. Forgive me, folks. Trying to pull myself together for this video. Even on a good day, I'm a little crusty and bubbly around the edges. I try to do my best, folks. When you've been through what I've been through for the last 30 years, we'd all be lucky to make the claim that we're still above ground. It's been a little bit of a rough ride, but you know what? I'm not going to cry about it. I'm going to accept what is on my plate, what has been given to me for this incarnation to work on myself with. What more could I say? So, got a couple of interesting fiddles here and some things to talk about in relation to them. This here is a violin made by Claude Chevrier, who I believe was for sure French. I'm trying to figure out if in my memory, whether he was in Mirecourt or whether he was in Paris. But for sure, a French maker. Let's have a look on the inside of this fiddle. Let's see. I don't know if you can see right over here is ink branded C. Chevrier. C. Chevrier. There we go. So it's not in shadow. Right there. Very fine corner blocks. Beautiful one-piece maple back. Now, unfortunately for this violin, the back had been split in half due to some calamity or another. It was cracked completely in half, all the way up the full length of the back. And I got this fiddle a couple of years ago in an unrestored condition. Just bought it as a bunch of parts. And the reason I was attracted to it was because well, the very, very first violin I ever got was a Hopf, H-O-P-F. Huge violin making family in Germany, spanning probably no less than 5 generations. From the 1700s all the way to the latter 1800s in Germany. That was the very, very first violin that I ever acquired. The short version of the story is that I came home from being somewhere one day in the summer of 1973. And this is the summer before I went off to college for the first year of, no, not my first year of college. It would have been about my 3rd year of college, which was going to occur at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri. So I was very close to shipping off to college right about August of 1973. But I came home from being out somewhere. My mother said, you know what? They're having a yard sale at the house behind us. I went over there and looked at their stuff. I saw an old violin case laying on the table there. They had a $5 price tag on it. She said I didn't even look inside the case to see if there was a fiddle in it. I said, well, that's interesting. Okay, I'll go take a look. So I went over there. Sure enough, they had an old Hopf. Looked like it was from approximately 1860, 1870. Branded Hopf under the button on the back, like so many of them are. H-O-P-F, Hopf. So $5, man. Cash on the barrelhead. I grabbed that fiddle, took it down to a local violin shop, which back in those days was the shop of Doug and Jean Bearden brothers, who operated a shop at that time not very far from where we lived in University City, Missouri, which was one of the near-in, close-in western suburbs west of downtown St. Louis at the riverfront. So I took it over there. It had a really crappy, cheap bow in the case, which needed rehairing. For the cost of about $35 back in those days, they fixed up the old Hopf, rehaired the bow, and I had an outfit of sufficient quality to take off to college with me. And that's exactly what I did. I took that fiddle off to college, and let me think. I'm thinking back here. Um, uh, and so that was the fiddle I first learned on, very, very early on. Now, the reason I paused and hesitated is because I may have the chronology slightly off. I think the Hopf violin I acquired before I even went to school in Columbia, Missouri. I think I had already acquired the Hopf before I even went to school for my very first year of college, which was at Denver University. That's right, because I remember taking a group violin class at Denver University, and I had my Hopf violin with me. So I already had it by then. That would have been 1971. Be that as it may, at some point thereafter, I want to say somewhere around 1973 or 74, I told my mom that I needed and wanted a better violin. Could she help me out, And we ended up going to the shop of Gene Bearden in St. Louis, who by then had split apart from his brother Doug. They had split up, never to speak to each other ever again. Apparently something very bitter and horrible had happened. And they both opened up their own shops separately. So my mom took me up to Gene Bearden's shop, which at that time was in West County, not far from the St. Louis Lambert International Airport. And we met with Gene there. My mother was a very attractive woman those days. She was, if I may say so, she was quite attractive and quite the party animal. And even to the point of being certainly glamorous. She was kind of a rat pack kind of a gal with her second husband, whose name was Bill Rose. And they were among a country club set of folks who were all party animals, heavy drinkers. Back in the days of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. and smoking and drinking, carrying on. All of that shit was going on. We're talking early 60s now, through the mid 60s. So that was the whole scene. But my mom agreed to help me go shop for a new violin. So we went up to Gene Bearden's shop, and he invited us back into the inner sanctum, back into his own private office. I suppose he could have dealt with us out on the showroom floor, but he actually invited us back into his office, and we sat down, and I could tell that he was somewhat enamored of my mother, and treated her quite kindly, and there was a bit of a vibe going on there. You know what I mean, just all professional, but just a very strong vibe of him wanting to do what he could to help us out. And I just told him that I told him that I liked really old violins. I thought they were really cool. And I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm looking for. Maybe just some European instrument. And he had several shelves along one side of the room. Fiddles perched upon these shelves, quite a number of them. And oddly enough, after he found out what our budget was, which I think was around $500 or so, it doesn't sound like much, but we're talking about 1974. He just stood up, walked over to a shelf, grabbed one violin off that shelf, and just handed it to me. And I thought it was really beautiful looking. As it turns out, it was a very old French violin with a one-piece very strongly curled curly maple. Now the top had a lot of top cracks in it. A lot of top cracks, but it's all been repaired according to Bearden. And he, well, as it turns out, that violin was also a Claude Chevrier. So, and we ended up buying it. The very first real handmade violin that I ever had was a Claude Chevrier, circa about 1850. That would be right about the time that Claude Chevrier was most active. So this fiddle here, I was drawn to it online for all the reasons that I just explained, which are the fact that my very first good handmade violin was a Claude Chevrier that my mom bought for me back in or around 1974. Well, this one here, like I think this one turned up on eBay just in parts. Somebody had done a bunch of work to it, but it got sold off. I bought it pretty cheap, needless to say. Bought it pretty cheap. And I got my work cut out for me in getting this thing back in shape, which I certainly intend to do. It won't ever be worth very much because of this long back crack. Anytime you have extensive cracks to the back of the instrument, especially that go through the sound post area, it spells doom for the market value of a violin. But anyway, I'm going to have some fun with that. Let's put that over here for right now. Here is one other little thing. After I'd been at college for a couple of years, for some reason I decided to sell that Claude Chevrier violin. Actually, let's rewind the tape a little bit. Before I sold it, one of the cracks appeared to open up on the top of the fiddle. So I took it to this old guy. I think his name was Gene Roberts. He was a violin repairman, a guy. He wasn't so old, you know. He was maybe in his 40s or 50s, and a really nice feller. Actually learned a lot from him about violin repair, just hanging out with him on a number of occasions. But he said, yeah, he could fix that fiddle for me, and so I left it with him. And he called me up and said, Mark, you got to come over here and see this thing. I've got the top off of it. You really need to see this. So I went over there, and I suppose we could get a little bit graphic here and take the top off of this Chevrier. He across, right about here, was about a 1-inch strip of wood all the way across. Another one here, another one here, another one here. There were 4 of them. 4 strips of wood that had been glued across the entire top. And they thinned out a little bit out towards the edges. But right in the middle, these strips of wood were, oh my God, they were thicker than the original top. So they're probably about 5 or 6 or 7 millimeters thick. Quite thick, these patches. And rough roughly hewn, roughly cut on the backside. They were not finished off in any fine fashion whatsoever. They were relatively crude, although they did fit. Strangely enough, they did fit to the surface of the top fairly well. There was obviously these patches were designed and installed by somebody who realized that it occurred to him that this is what this fiddle needed, because there were really quite a lot of cracks through the top, quite a lot of top cracks. So they did this major surgery installing these weird strips of wood. Well, there was so much extra wood inside this fiddle that it doesn't take a genius to realize that it would be choking off the tone big time. It would function as quite a constraint to the free vibration and free expression of the fiddle. So I gave Gene the green light to go ahead and carve out all of those patches and just do a standard, regular shop style cleating job. These cleats here, these little stitches of wood are called cleats. So Gene carefully carved out all of these weird strips of wood, carved them completely out, and then all the cracks he did little cleats to. So by the time he was done with my fiddle, it probably had upwards of 50 cleats in it. Quite a few cleats, reinforcement cleats, you know. Put the fiddle all back together, and it sounded twice as good as it did before. It really opened up the fiddle, man. Just what you'd expect. And so the fiddle was kind of reborn, and I continued to play it for a while. But for some reason, at some point, I decided to sell it. I'm not sure why, but I did. And I don't even remember to this day. Can't remember who I sold it to. However, a number of more years went by, and this was, maybe two or three more years, or a couple of years went by, and I inquired of somebody, some friend, not sure who it was in my memory, but they seemed to know where that fiddle ended up, and it ended up in the possession of, I don't remember the guy's name. He was an old timer, an old guy, and I found out that he was going to be at this fiddle contest out in Washington, Missouri. So I went to the contest just to make a day of it, and I even entered the contest myself. I didn't do very well at that time, but I tracked down this old guy whose name completely escapes me. But yeah, I approached him and I said, "Hey, how's it going, man? You know, I hear you ended up with my old Claude Chevrier fiddle." "Oh, yeah, I still have it, yeah." "Boy, I'd sure love to see it." "Yeah, I got it right over here," you know. So we walked a little ways over to his car, and he pulled it out, and it was really quite a trip to see it again. However, it didn't sound anything like it used to when I had it. And I could see evidence that there was a new bass bar inside the fiddle. And God only knows what else had been done to it. But it just sounded like shit. And, oh boy. I didn't say that to him, but it sounded terrible. And, but he loved it because it was a really, really old fiddle. Had beautiful curly maple on the one-piece back, and it was just a cool looking fiddle all the way around. From a fine fiddle making tradition, which is exactly what you would have found in and around Mirecourt and Paris back in those days. Very fine violin making was going on. There were expert makers everywhere. So anyway, we chatted and so forth and so on. Then I bid him adieu, and quite a number of years later, I'm not sure how many in the chronology, but I would say it wasn't a whole lot of years, but maybe 4, 5, 6 years later, I heard through the grapevine that this feller who owned my Chevrier had gone into the nursing home, and he was somewhere in central Missouri, living out his final days at some nursing home, and I was told by somebody who knew him and had gone to visit him that he still kept his fiddles with him under the bed at the nursing home, and that he still had the Claude Chevrier violin all the way till the end. Apparently, I'm sure he couldn't have lived all that much longer, but one can only speculate as to what may have ultimately happened to that old Claude Chevrier violin. Anyway, that's pretty much the long and the short of that story. But as I mentioned earlier, the very first violin that I acquired from that yard sale was a Hopf violin, one of the Hopf family. Well, strangely enough, I have a Hopf violin here. You can see the word Hopf, Hopf. This violin is actually quite similar in some ways to the Hopf that I acquired from that yard sale, which, like I said before, was the very, very, very first violin that I ever played, that I ever owned. But this is just an old Hopf, just a cheap ass old Hopf fiddle from about 1870, 1880, right around in there. Something that I bought really cheap somewhere, and it's rough as a cob, man, just rough as a cob. But the corpus, the body, is actually in much better than average condition. So the whole fiddle, generally speaking, is quite restorable. But these fiddles, they're never going to be worth much. Now, interestingly enough, the old paper label inside this fiddle actually says L. Hopf. L. Hopf. I'm not sure which, I think in Henley's book, there are about, I don't know, 10, 15 different Hopfs mentioned, all related through the family lines, spanning 100 years or better. I'm not sure who L. Hopf was. I don't know what the L stands for. I'll look it up someday. But this fiddle for sure is mid-1800s to maybe around 1870 or thereabouts. Just thought I'd show you all that. Kind of interesting. There's another fiddle. One of my other videos I have on my channel is a video with a title explaining that I play a tune called Echoes of the Ozarks on a Masakichi Suzuki violin. Masakichi Suzuki. And what I have here in my hand is not the violin that occurs on that video, but a different Masakichi Suzuki violin that I happen to also own. It does not have the fancy Masakichi Suzuki paper label, but it does have the smaller, much smaller paper label on the E string side of the back, where it says trademark, and this funny little symbol that the company used to use. It's kind of a wheel-shaped thing with some spokes. Looks like some kind of a wheel. Trademark, made in Nippon. Nippon, of course, is Japan. Was one of the anglicizations of the word Japan. Nippon, made in Nippon. And so, most definitely for sure, a product of the Masakichi Suzuki factory, which was located in Nagoya, Japan. And this actually is, they had different grades of fiddles. This certainly was not the lowest grade. This was a mid-grade or better. Pretty nicely made violin, actually. Pretty nice maple. Now, Japanese maple always has its own sort of look. It doesn't resemble European maple very much, or American maple. It has a kind of a different kind of figure in it. The neck is also Japanese maple, but very bland figure, if any. Now this fiddle is completely unrestored, but you can see that it's got extensive deterioration occurring down here around the end block. However, nothing is so radically out of kilter that it cannot be rebuilt quite successfully. So we got that to deal with. But nice arching. Very good neck set, actually. Very good neck set. Now, you can see that it has, the fingerboard is not real ebony. It's more than likely it's poplar or just some other softer wood. I know that poplar was used a lot in Germany. But yeah, this fingerboard is going to come off and a real ebony board put on, and so forth and so on. Now, as I explained in that other video, the Echoes of the Ozarks video, when I had occasion, when I was restoring that violin, had occasion to take the top off and check the graduations on the top, and they were way too thick. The fiddle really truly would benefit from a regraduation, which I did. I regraduated the top on that other fiddle, and I put in a new bass bar, and it turned out really nice. The fiddle sounds fantastic, in my humble opinion. Now, just eyeballing it, I have the strong feeling that I'll probably have to do the same to this fiddle once I get inside. Do some regraduation so that the thing can breathe and flex and resonate more freely, and really open up the tone really nicely in our effort to bring a violin like this up to our modern preferences as far as tone, sound, and power, and so forth and so on. But, you know, there's good bones to work with here. Good bones. Very good bones. Here's another interesting fiddle. This will be the last one, I suppose, in the last one in this little discussion. This fiddle is likely from central or eastern Germany, possibly from across the Czech border into a region that used to be called Bohemia. It's classic sort of early, very, very early German scroll or Bohemian scroll. Almost slightly oval or egg-shaped, just slightly squeezed. Also, we have these very strong curly cues on the wings, top and bottom, where the wings really have a curly cue, strong, and even on the top, they you can see where they end in points, end in little points. Very, very characteristic motif that we find in early German and Bohemian violins from that whole region. Now, when I say early, I'm talking about for sure 1750-ish to maybe 1780 or thereabouts. Now, it's also possible this fiddle could be more specifically German, from either from Markneukirchen or Klingenthal, and that region right around there in eastern Germany. Fairly high arched, which is very characteristic of the fiddles back in those days in the 1700s. This fiddle really does look very much like a very, very early German fiddle. But it could be from Bohemia as well. Now, I've already done it I've only had the fiddle for about a month and a half, and it was in terrible shape when I got it. I bought it from a private party here in Arizona. And I immediately undertook to restore it, pulled the top off, did a whole bunch of interior work, which included a very light regraduation of mostly of this center, this oval area around the sound holes, where it was about 4.5 millimeters thick, way too thick. So I balanced all that out, and I put in a new bass bar, and I found some bass bar stock, quite old. I don't know where I got this wood. It was so old that it had oxidized to this lovely old, sort of dark brownish color. A very old chunk of spruce that I've had forever. So I used that for bass bar stock. Got the whole fiddle back together, wedged up the fingerboard because the fingerboard projection was too low. And I wasn't prepared to go ahead and go the full extra mile and reset the whole neck into the body. Just wasn't prepared to do that. I figured I would do it someday, but instead I did put a wedge underneath the fingerboard, raise up the fingerboard projection. So prior to that, the fingerboard was so low that you had to cut the bridge way, way, way down for anything to make sense as far as playability. But now I've got all that done. Now I had it playable before, and it had some charming qualities. It really did. But I've done all this work to this fiddle, put it all back together. Brand new fingerboard, the whole deal. You know what? This is one of the great mysteries I've encountered in violins. You just never know for sure after doing your best work on an instrument whether it's going to really achieve that sweet spot where everything comes together just right. Playability, tone, power, balance, response. All of these things need to come together to make for the most enjoyable playing experience on one of these kind of instruments. The fiddle, prior to my restoration, came to me strung up. The fellow that brought it to me was an old man whose brother had owned this fiddle. His brother had passed away a few years ago. His brother had used this fiddle for decades, playing for dances, kind of like contra dances and square dances, back in like Cincinnati, as it turns out, which was where his brother lived. But the fiddle had some rather captivating qualities, I must say. But it wasn't very loud, and it was a bit scratchy sounding. I could tell that it would benefit greatly from a full stem to stern regraduation, restoration, and some regraduation. I did not touch the back. I didn't take one sliver of wood out of the back, not one sliver. I left that completely alone because it was quite well done and quite sufficient in its own right. But the top was a different matter. So, and I even undertook to be very, very careful about what regraduations I did in the top of this fiddle, so as to not, when it comes to these things, you want to err on the side of caution, as it were. Now, some aspects of this fiddle have improved, but overall, the fiddle is not even as enjoyable to play as it was before. It's fighting. The fiddle is it's just not speaking out properly, and it doesn't feel balanced. I'm going to have to rethink a couple things, which I've already done actually. I need to take some more mass out of the fingerboard, which I'm going to do probably tomorrow. This is a very fine French Superior brand, a bridge. Very, very fine bridge, which fits perfectly. I left it just the tiniest bit hefty in the final cuts. With the thinking that I can always remove a little more wood here and there and make a few more cuts to sort of turbocharge the bridge if I feel it necessary. So, it's okay. It's just not. It just, the gosh darn thing, I've been doing this kind of work for so long that when I hit the zone on a fiddle, I goddamn well know it. When I'm over the target and getting close to the target, as far as all of the various performance and tonal features all converge and create, such a hopefully wonderful and playable result. It doesn't take a freaking genius to know when you're getting close to that point. But after all the work I've done to this thing, I would have thought I'd be much closer to that point than I am. I have a feeling that I've just got way too much mass left in the fingerboard, and that I need to turbocharge the bridge a little bit. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'll report back to y'all, folks. These vibrations, these fiddles, the vibrations when they hit a little bit too much wood and too much density, it's going to act like a tone sink. The tone will hit a brick wall, and it will the whole fiddle won't speak out freely, and it won't resonate freely like we all expect it to do if we've done our work properly, with a little bit of help from intuition and just plain old good luck, perhaps one might say. So that's all I can say about that fiddle for right now. I will give you an update on it at some point. Whew. Having said all of that, if anybody is still here with me at this late stage in the video, you're my kind of people, because only a fiddle lunatic, only someone who's just wild about fiddles and everything pertaining to them would have labored through this much of a video like this. But this is the kind of stuff I do. I've been neck deep in these fiddles for the last 50 or more years of my life. More actually, about 52 years or so is about how many years, and counting, that I have been doing this kind of work. And for about for about 21 years, through the 90s and into the 2000s, I worked for a shop in St. Louis, Missouri, and had quite a go of it there. Very intense work, high volume shop, kept me very, very busy for many, many years. I learned a lot, and ultimately left in about 2016 and moved out here to Tucson, Arizona, where I opened up my own violin shop. I just work out of my home. I kind of fly under the radar a bit, one might say, although I've got my name out there in enough places now that work just comes to me through word of mouth and so forth and so on, and a little bit of advertising. So I've been doing quite well, I might say, quite well for about 7 years straight. Quite well indeed. A lot of work has come my way and kept me very, very, very busy. So there's always something new on the horizon, folks. And I've got several coming up, several new restorations that are just about ready to go onto the workbench for my full, undivided attention. Oh my. Let's face facts here, folks. I don't have that much runway left ahead of me before I crash and burn. I just don't. I've gotten to the point where my number may be called up at any time, making it quite clear that it's my time to go. When you get to be 72 years old and you're not in the greatest shape, which is true in my case, due to a variety of long-term chronic illnesses that I've had to struggle with and try to maintain some kind of a life with. You just gotta accept the fact that any day that you wake up in the morning and you're not surrounded by flowers and incense and soft new age music is a good day, because that means that you're still alive, you're still ready to live out a few hours more amongst the living here in this world. So, having said all of that, folks, I certainly wish the best for all of you out there tonight. Try to keep your head screwed on straight, folks. We're going to be in for some rough riding here over the next couple years. These bastards, man. These bastards who want to bring in this new world order bullcrap, like the World Health Organization. What a bunch of thugs and retards and losers those guys are. Oh my fucking God. Tedros and that whole gang. Monsters. The World Economic Forum. All of these rich sons of bitches, man, who get it in their heads. It's not enough that they're all billionaires or multi-millionaires. It's not enough. They've got to try to undertake to fuck with us all, in one form or another. They've got to try to figure out ways to control us or squeeze us for even more money or wealth in one form or another. And how about this? How about Big Pharma? That whole debacle, that complete rape and assault on all of humankind that they undertook with their goddamn COVID vaccines. Sorry, folks. My opinion only. You can retain your own opinion about it. I've done an immense amount of study and investigation of the topic ever since the very, very beginning, ever since 2020, when they started offering the public cheeseburgers and fries if you would be kind enough to go get yourself vaccinated. Get the fuck out of here. What kind of bullshit is that? And then, of course, the degree to which all of the power entities like mainstream media, the U.S. government, celebrities, and we're getting hit from every conceivable angle, trying to force us to take these vaccines, and then shaming all of us who were hesitant. Anyone who hesitated to just rush out and take the vaccine were conceived and construed and portrayed as somehow mentally deficient or uncaring or just, idiots. All of those amongst us who, well, guess what, fast forward about 4 or 5 years, and you can see now it's become crystal clear that all of us who chose not to be vaccinated have been completely 100% vindicated. We were all completely 100% vindicated. The COVID vaccines were all complete bullshit. The whole thing was a fraud. They didn't do what they were purported to do. But it gets infinitely worse from that point, because now we know through worldwide research, peer-reviewed papers have been published. Labs all over Europe and all over the world have identified all kinds of nightmarish compounds present in these COVID vaccines, which are now causing extremely fast-growing turbo cancers, as they're called, and other kinds of vaccine injuries and death. This is no secret. No matter how much the mainstream media tries to, and the governments of the world try to sugarcoat it or just what's the word? De-emphasize it or cover it up. The cat is out of the bag. The Pandora's box was opened long ago, revealing the full extreme criminal intent of the big pharmaceutical companies. This is all now out in the open, and yet these monsters are still, these sons of bitches are still trying to enact the same playbook with this new hantavirus bullshit. Still trying to get the whole world cranked up for another pandemic. It's all just so absurd, so disgusting. Hate to end on a bad note, folks, but actually it may not be such a bad note. In fact, it's actually a very good note to end on, because I am resolute about retaining my sovereignty, and I will not take ever, unless I'm dragged out of here, physically dragged out, and forcibly vaccinated. I will never choose vaccination, never, for the rest of my life. But that's just for me. That's my own personal choice, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next several months, if not years. Very interesting to see what happens. In the midst of all of this mayhem and dark, weird, negative energy, I still offer my love and affection and compassion toward y'all out there who have been so kind as to come visit my channel. If you happen to be into sitting around hearing about old violins and hearing about some of my stories pertaining to my own involvement with them and my own experiences, God bless you for coming and being part of this discussion. Having said all of that, good night, folks. Good night. See you on the next one.